The Sherlock Holmes films are announced on 4K, Deer Hunter and Escape from LA get new Shout Factory releases, and The Invisible Man comes to your home on Blu-ray and 4K. All this and more in the next Physical Media Report. Stay tuned. What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Mid-Level Media channel for another fantastic episode of the Physical Media Report. I am your host, the Mid-Level Critic Ken, and I am here today to run down everything new and awesome and exciting in the world of physical media. Blu-rays, 4Ks, maybe a few DVDs slipped in there as well. But we're going to break it down. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about the newly announced titles. We're going to talk about the things that are coming out this week, tomorrow. And we're also going to run down some deals and the top 5 Blu-rays and 4Ks from last week, as well as my pickups from the last week. Now, one thing that I'm going to say is I put out the poll for my Q&A yesterday, and I'm not sure if a few people were confused on the subject, but I didn't get a lot of physical media-based questions. I got a couple, so I'm going to leave out the Q&A portion of the show today. And what I'm going to do is, because I got a lot of fantastic questions, they just didn't have anything to do with physical media. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a separate video, and it's going to be a Q&A video. And I'm going to put those questions in that video. So if you submitted a question and it is not going to be read on this show, because most of the questions had nothing to do with physical media, and I like to keep this more physical media centric. So I'm going to do a separate video and I'm going to answer all those questions. It's just not going to be answered on this episode today. So let's get into the main topic, guys. And before I get into the main topic, I want to ask that if you are not yet a subscriber of the Mid-Level Media channel, go ahead and click that subscribe button right now. Become a subscriber. I do these shows every single Monday to run down all the new 4K and Blu-ray releases. I also do unboxings and Blu-ray 4K reviews. I do giveaways. I have a weekly horror show on Thursdays called The Haunting of Mid-Level. This channel puts out consistent content, 3 to 4 videos a week. I do movie reviews, top 10 lists, and stuff like that. So if you like movies, if you like physical media, Blu-rays, 4Ks, you're interested in all that kind of stuff, you will love this channel. Go ahead and subscribe right now. And I would also ask that you guys please just take 1 second and just like this video. Every single like will help this video kind of move up the ranks in the algorithms and get out there to more people. And go ahead and just comment below. Just drop me a comment down below related to stuff that we discuss on the show today. So let's get into it, guys. We're going to start with the news, and this week we have new titles announced by the Warner Archive. So if you're not familiar with Warner Archive, they are kind of a subsection of the Warner Brothers media company. So they're not Warner Brothers proper, but they are kind of a subsection of that, and they release basically a lot of classic films, a lot of classic films from their catalog that they are bringing back, movies that you haven't heard of in decades. They are bringing back into the spotlight with this Warner Archive collection, and they're great. I've got about 10 of them right now. Just fantastic additions, and they always do such great work. But let's go ahead and talk about the new titles that they announced. So they announced Canary Row, and this is starring Nick Nolte and Deborah Wanger. And they also got Strike Up the Band with Judy Garland. They got Romance on the High Seas, Pennyworth Season 1. They also do TV as well, and they're doing the new DC show Pennyworth Season 1. And they had The Old House of Wax. So a lot of great titles announced for their June slate. Look out for those. And we're going to move into the next one because Robert Downey Jr. and Jude Law's Sherlock Holmes films, both of them. The first one, which I think came out in 2008, and the sequel, Game of Shadows, which came out in 2011. Those are both receiving 4K transfers that are going to be due out on September the 1st. So be looking out for those if you are a Sherlock Holmes fan, or at least that iteration of the franchise. So another thing that was announced, guys, and I think I mentioned this a couple weeks ago on the Physical Media Report, but the Ghost Blu-ray is being released by Paramount Presents. At that time, it did not have a concrete release date, but it is being released on July 21st from Paramount's Presents. And as you know, I've been collecting all the Paramount's Presents. I'm really excited about that series, and I'll definitely be picking up Ghost when it comes out. So that does it for all the news. What we're going to do now, guys, we're going to get into some deals, and there's quite a few awesome deals to talk about here today. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is The Matrix on 4K. Is now $11.99, so $12 for The Matrix on 4K, which is an excellent deal. We also have a couple criterions I'm going to talk about. Roma is now $19.59, and I know that was $27.99 just a few weeks ago when it came out. So that's about an $8 difference. So that's a good price for that. We also have All About Eve, which is a classic film on Criterion, is $18.99 right now. So a couple of great deals on some Criterions. We also have Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark is now $9.99. So that's a great price for that for the Blu-ray. Batman v Superman 4K is now $14.99 for the Ultimate Edition. So that's a good deal for that. That's something I might actually take part in because I do have Batman v Superman on Blu-ray, but I kind of would like the 4K. So I might be getting that myself. And then you got Hellboy on 4K. The movie wasn't received very well, got pretty much panned by the critics, but it is $9.96 on 4K. So for a 4K, you really can't beat that. And also 47 Meters Down Uncaged, which is a recent film. I think it just came out on Blu-ray maybe, I don't know, maybe about 4 months ago. And that is already $9.99. So that's a good deal for that. And it's a decent flick. So I recommend picking that up for $9.99. All right, so that does it for the deals today, guys. Some good stuff in there, but definitely not as much as we had last week. So right now we're going to go into the top 5 Blu-rays and 4Ks. And as I explained last week, I'm going to go ahead and group these two together now and just give you the top 5 Blu-rays and 4Ks together, which I actually think is better and gives you a more accurate picture of what's really going on in the physical media world as far as what people are purchasing. So the number one thing last week, guys, and this kind of surprised me, but then when I thought about it, it didn't because it kind of makes sense. But Justice League Dark Apocalypse, the Blu-ray of that was the top-selling Blu-ray release. But when I'm thinking about it, you know, DC has a very consistent, at least in quality and fan base with their DC animated films. A lot of people love those films, so it does make sense that that is one of the top-selling movies, especially when you know it's coming out exclusively to physical media. Yeah, it has a VOD release, but it's not in theaters or anything like that. They just drop these things, and I know that collectors love grabbing those and collecting them. So the fans of those love buying the actual physical media version. So that makes sense for that being number one. Number 2 is the Sonic Blu-ray, which makes sense. That just came out last week. Number 3, Star Wars Episode 9 is still hanging in there, still hanging in that top 5 after months of being released. So that's pretty impressive. And we also have the Jaws 4K at number 4. So I guess a lot of people are anticipating that, pre-ordering it. I will be interested to see if that can top the charts in a couple weeks when it has released. So we'll keep an eye on that. And number 5 is Birds of Prey. And so that one's still hanging in there as well. It's coming out about two weeks ago. Yeah, 2 weeks ago tomorrow. So that does it for the top 5 Blu-rays and 4Ks, guys. So let's get into my new pickups from last week. And I basically showed you all most of my new stuff that I got last week because I got it early. So I showed off the Tom Cruise 4Ks, the Blues Brothers, all that stuff. So most of these, except for one, are not new. They're just ones that I either saw at Walmart for a good price and picked up, or I saw a deal on Amazon and I grabbed. But I definitely got some good ones. I've got some classics here that, I'm going to be able to show you guys. And the first one I got is the Scarface 4K. So this was on Amazon for $15, I think. And I might have talked about this in a deal last week. But yeah, I have surprisingly never seen Scarface. So I'm definitely interested in watching this one at some point, getting a review out there. So Scarface on 4K. The next one I got, guys, is another classic, and it's a film I have seen. I've seen it a couple times. Taxi Driver, starring Robert De Niro, directed by Martin Scorsese. So this one I've been trying to get for a while. I should have bought the Steelbook when they had it at Walmart, but I never did. And now it's gone. But this one was $15 for the Blu-ray, and I couldn't find a cheaper price for it, so I went ahead and grabbed it. Unfortunately, this is the 40th anniversary edition. I thought it was going to come with a slipcover, but it didn't. So I'm disappointed about that. But this one, guys, is a deal that I did mention last week, and that is The Old Man and the Gun. And this is a David Lowery film. If you don't know David Lowery, he did a Ghost Story for A24. He's doing the upcoming Green Knight movie from A24. So an interesting director, and I actually heard this was really good. And it was billed as Robert Redford's last performance, but he also did Endgame, so it wasn't really his last performance because he was in a scene in Endgame. So maybe his last lead performance, though, is the old man and the gun. And this next one I got, guys, is a Tony Scott classic, another Tony Scott classic. This is a movie that I love. It's a highly underrated film from the 90s starring Gene Hackman and Will Smith, and that is Enemy of the State. And I have not seen this movie in at least 15 years, so I'm really interested in going back and watching this because I loved this movie when I was a kid. And yeah, just going back and watching this and reminding myself how much I miss Gene Hackman as an actor. But these next two guys are films that I picked up from Walmart, and I went ahead and grabbed this Bill and Ted double pack. And this is a Scream Factory that they have a lot of Scream Factories right now at Walmart. So if you want to go check those out, I know they have the Sleepaway Camp there for $10. But this is a double pack of Bill and Ted for $10 at Walmart. It's a Shout Factory, and two films that I have also never seen. So I will definitely be checking those out before the new Bill and Ted comes out. This other one is a kind of animated classic, came out in 1982, and that's The Secret of Nymph. And I saw this over in the kids section for $5, and I'm like, this is a classic that a lot of people talk about. I've never seen it, so I'm interested in checking this one out for $5. This is something that I could definitely sit down and enjoy with my kids, so I went and picked it up. The next one, guys, is something new that I got, and it finally came in. It was supposed to come in 2 weeks ago, and Amazon kind of kept delaying it. But I got the Idle Hands Scream Factory film. So I will be doing an unboxing and review of this movie as soon as I watch it. So hopefully this week I'll be getting that out there. So that does it for my pickups this week, guys. What we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and get into what's coming out that's new this Tuesday or tomorrow, or if you watch it beyond Tuesday, what came out this week, what came out a couple of days ago. So new this week, guys, we don't have, like I said last week, they kind of blew their load on physical media releases. Like everything came out last week, a lot of in-store stuff. So this week there's really not a lot to talk about in-store unless they release a few of these 4Ks, which I don't think so, but really the only thing that I think is going to come out in stores is The Invisible Man. And that comes out on 4K and Blu-ray, of course, released by Universal. So that's the big one this week. The rest of everything I'm going to cover is just stuff that you're probably only going to be able to get online from certain boutique physical media-based retailers. So the first thing we got is Deer Hunter, and that's a Shout Factory release, and that's also a 4K release. And somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but this has to be one of the first times that Shout Factory is doing like a legitimate 4K release. At least I don't remember any in recent memory. But Deer Hunter has a 4K release, and that's coming out tomorrow. That's one I've actually pre-ordered, so I'm hoping to get that in tomorrow or this week sometime, maybe Wednesday. And I'm going to get an unboxing and review up for that at some point as well. Another Shout Factory that's coming out is John Carpenter's Escape from L.A., and that comes out tomorrow. So I thought about grabbing that one, but yeah, I don't know. Escape from LA is notoriously not as good as Escape from New York. I haven't seen either in a long time. I know I've seen both of them. I remember liking both of them when I was a kid, but I don't know if I'm going to be grabbing that one, at least right out the gate. So we got the Zombie 4K, and that's being released by Blue Underground. And we have Maniac on 4K is also being released by Blue Underground. So I don't think Blue Underground does a lot of 4Ks either. So these are like two of its first 4Ks that it's releasing. And those are both kind of cult underground old horror movies. I know they did a remake of Maniac with Elijah Wood a few years ago, but this is the original one that's coming out on 4K. The next thing, guys, is we have two Arrow releases coming out tomorrow, and the first one is Solid Metal Nightmares, the films of Tsukio Moto, and that is being released on Arrow tomorrow. And this has at least, I think, about 6 or 7 films attached to it. So that's an entire box set. So if you're a fan of that director, definitely a cool cover on that. It intrigues me, actually, to maybe grab this and check it out. But the other Arrow we got is Blood Tide, and that's being released tomorrow as well. And moving into the Criterions, guys, we got 3 Criterion Collection movies coming out tomorrow. We got the Scorsese Shorts, which is a collection of short films by Martin Scorsese. coming out, and we have Husbands, and we also have Wildlife, which is a film that stars Jake Gyllenhaal, directed by Paul Dano. So I'm definitely intrigued to check. I don't know if I'll buy the Criterion, but I don't know if I've ever heard of that movie before seeing the Criterion cover. And with the director and actor involved, I might be interested in checking that one out at some point. But let's move, guys, into a couple other Shout Factories that I didn't cover earlier. But we got Before the Devil Knows You're Dead, starring Ethan Hawke. And we also have A Midnight Clear, which is being released by Shout Factory as well. And Kino Lorber has a new title starring Christopher Lee, and it's called In Search of Dracula. So that's definitely a cool cover on that one. I need to pick up a Kino Lorber title, which I did recently with Lost Highway, but I need to grab something that's a little bit new, just to show off to you guys, because I haven't really reviewed a lot of their stuff. So also interesting, tomorrow we have 2 FYE exclusive steelbooks, and I'm not sure if the FYE stores are currently open right now. I would assume that most of them are not. So these, I would have to think you probably have to get them online rather than in store. But you have the Tommy Boy, the classic comedy starring Chris Farley, David Spade, coming out tomorrow with a steelbook. And you have Better Off Dead starring John Cusack coming out tomorrow with a steelbook, both exclusive to FYE, which I'm assuming you can only buy online. So another couple titles tomorrow. We got Once We Were Brothers, and this is being billed as a 2019 release. I have not heard of this. Haven't really looked a lot into it, but yeah, it's being billed as a 2019 release, so I'm not sure. We also have Reflections of the Living Dead, which is kind of like a documentary style movie based on the making of the Night of the Living Dead. So that might be interesting to check out for sure. But that does it, guys, for the new releases tomorrow. Like I said, there's really not a lot in terms of like in store. Most of these you have to get online to purchase. So it's kind of a big day, but really not. Like if you're the type that likes to go to store to get your movies and look around, there's not going to be a lot of new stuff to check out. But the good news is that last week was so incredibly strong. I'm sure that you couldn't afford everything that came out last week, at least most people. So you'll be able to kind of go back and pick up some of those older titles that we missed out on a couple of weeks before. At least that's my plan to do. So yeah, guys, that does it today for the Physical Media Report. That's pretty much all I have. I know I'm cutting today's episode a little bit short. It is Memorial Day. I do have some family gatherings and things to go do today. But I do appreciate you guys watching and tuning in today for the Physical Media Report. So like I said, guys, if you have not yet, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. Go ahead and like this video and comment down below just any pickups that you plan on getting this week, anything that you grabbed last week. Just let's open up a physical media based conversation below. So I appreciate you guys watching today. Stay safe out there. Have a great Memorial Day, and we'll see you next time.